Hi everyone, and today in this video we are going to discuss about an interesting company in the AI, cloud and the data center segment, and the company name is E2E Networks. And in this video there are a lot of interesting data points, so I would suggest you to watch the whole video. So before starting the report, just a quick disclaimer that it's not a buy or sell recommendation. So let's start with the report. So E2E Network, from the day one, they were EBITDA positive, which is a very rare scenario because a lot of companies who try to replicate this model, so usually companies have higher cost when they come in this segment because they want to compete with the big players, but E2E Network has differentiated compared to those players. So instead of trying to replicate the global cloud giants and unlike the traditional hyperscaler companies, so a good thing about E2E is that it focuses on the 10% of the infra, which constitutes 80% of the client spending, and they offer these critical services at 30% of the cost of the global companies. So that's a great point. And along with that, L&T has also bought 19% stake and they have invested 13 billion in E2E. So E2E does not have their own physical data center, but they take racks on co-location with multiple players like the entity. Then even L&T also have their own data center. So co-location means where multiple data center companies put their racks and they operate together. And currently E2E operate only in India, where they have a major data center in the Delhi, then they have a smaller one in Mumbai, and now they're also going to start one new data center in Chennai. And as of now, E2E is the largest deployer of H200 in India, which is a GPU made by Nvidia. And now let's take a look at their shareholding pattern. So currently promoter have 40% of stake, then FIs are holding almost 3%, then DIs are holding 3.5%, where Bandhan large cap and mid cap fund are holding 1.8%, and lastly public holding is around 53%, where L&T is holding 19%. Now let's take a look at the history of the company. So they started their company in 2009, and in 2011 they did a seed funding from Blue Ventures and they raised 30 million rupees, and after that in 2018 they did an IPO listing on the NSE Emerge, and cut to the 2024, now they have done a partnership with L&T. And now let's come to the next segment where we will see the industry overview. So the first point is that currently India is generating over 20% of the world's data, but we only account for 2% of the global compute capacity. So just by reading this data point, we can see that there is a significant opportunity to scale, especially in the cloud GPU segment. And currently in India, we have a data center capacity of 1.6 gigawatt, and it is expected to be around 5 gigawatts by FY30. Then the second point is, now companies have shifted their cloud spending from 1.2% of their revenue to around 5 to 7% in the GPU. Like for example, where E2E Network is targeting around 4 to 5% of their GPU cloud spending, and along with that, they're also aiming to cut 50% of their cost through efficient AI focused infra. And lastly, in the India AI mission, they're expecting that currently the TAM is around 112 billion rupees, and E2E is targeting around 10 to 15% market share in the next 2 to 3 years. And now let's come to the next segment where we'll see the value chain in the AI segment. So the first element and the most important in the AI chain is the chip manufacturing, and one of the biggest company we all know is the TSMC from Taiwan. Then after that, there are companies like chip designing, and we obviously know Nvidia and AMD are the chip designer companies which are very well known. Then afterwards, there are infra companies which give cloud servicing, like for example AWS, Azure, Oracle, and here comes the E2E Network. And then there are AI companies like ChatGPT, DeepSeek, Llama. Then in the next step, there are applications like Perplexity which integrate all the AIs together and they provide the services. And lastly, there is the consumer where we use their products. And now let's come to the next segment and we will see the type of GPUs currently E2E is using. So this is the data point of the Nvidia which they launched their GPU and when E2E deployed these GPUs. So for example, the V100 Nvidia launched in 2017 and they deployed in 2018, and now currently the major GPUs which E2E is using is the H100 and H200. And if you look at H100 and H200, so when Nvidia launched within the same year, even E2E deployed their GPUs. And here in the last column, we can see that E2E has currently deployed 3700 GPUs. And next, if we take a look over here, so in 2021, Nvidia had a market share of 79% in the GPU segment, but if we take a look at 2024, that has increased to 90%, and I'm expecting that it will increase more in the coming future. And now let's come to the next segment where we will do the financial analysis. So in FY21, they had a sales of 35 crores, but in FY25 they came up to 164 crores, which is almost a 4x jump. And if you take a look at their FY27 expectations, so that is expected to be around 526 crores. Even if you take a look at their EBITDA and their EBITDA margins, so they had an EBITDA of 10 crores in FY21, which came up to 96 crores in FY25 and is expected to be 374 crores in FY27, with the margins of 29% in FY21, 59% in FY25, and lastly in the expectations, they are expecting to generate 71% of EBITDA margins. So over here we can see that how fast and efficiently E2E network is growing. Even if you look at EPS, which is currently 23.7, that is expected to be around 33.57 by FY27. And if you look at PE, which might be concerning because of their higher valuation of 121, but that might be justified if they are generating the revenue and the guidance which they have been giving. And now let's come to the next segment, and we will do the peer comparison. So this is a data point shared by Daulat Capital. So over here we can see that there are multiple players like IBM, Oracle, Google, Azure and AWS. And if we specifically focus on AWS, so they generated a revenue of 108 billion in FY24 and they had an EBITDA margin of 37%. But if you look at their forward forecasting, so they are expected to generate 64% of EBITDA margin in FY27. And next, if you compare with Google Cloud, so they gave a revenue of 43 USD billion and they had an EBITDA margin of 14%, which is way lower compared to the other companies. And for FY27, they are expected to generate 22%. So to summarize this data point, we can definitely see that E2E network is growing very fast and nicely compared to the big global cloud players. And now let's come to the next segment where we will see the management guidance for the coming future. So the first point, company has mentioned that L&T has got a very good order to build their first AI-enabled data center in Uzbekistan, which is of 10 megawatts. Then afterwards, in the Q1 FY26, they currently have a GPU capacity of 3900 units, and along with that, they have also said about Chennai facility, where they have a large potential to scale up to 20,000 GPUs, and in Noida, they can scale up to at least 6,000 GPUs. Then next, in the third point, company has given a guidance of 65 to 75% of EBITDA margins, currently assuming at a 75 to 90% utilization rate. And the last point is the recent news where they secured an order worth 177 crores from the Ministry of Electronics and IT, and under the India AI mission, they have allocated their H100 and 200 GPUs and they're going to provide their GPU for 360 days, which will compute to 1.3 crore of GPU hours. So that's a very huge number. And because of this reason, E2E network and even NetWeb, they have given a very good rally in the last 1 week. And now, after reading all the good data points of E2E network, let's come to the risk. So the first risk in the company is that if L&T sell their stake in E2E, which might impact their shareholding. Then second point is that currently in Chennai facility, they face deployment issues, and because of this reason, they saw underutilization and lower revenue in this quarter. Then afterwards, if there is any delay in the India AI mission, that can also impact their revenue. And lastly, as they had higher operating expenditure and they opened new facility, so that also impacted their short-term margins. And now let's come to the last segment, which is the technical analysis. So as we can see that in Jan 2024, they were trading at a stock price of 850, and after that they gave a very good bull run and they made a high of almost 5,500 rupees. But after that, because of their higher valuation and they were trading at a PE of 200, because of this reason they started to fall, and now it is consolidating in a range. And because of their latest news about their new order, so the stock has went up from 2,000 rupees to almost 3,000 rupees. So in my view, the industry and the company is growing very nicely, but because of their higher valuation, if any issue comes out like the Chennai facility or their overvaluation, which can impact their short-term margins, so the stock can correct like this in the coming future. So thank you for watching this video. What do you think about E2E networks, whether it will do good or bad in the coming future? Write down in the comment section, and see you in the next video.